family. I got willing to risk their lives and freedom to die by me and mine. You hear me? Why don't play with me, man?
Remember how you and Wallow were crying? You and Wallow were crying. Oh, my son got killed. Oh, you were crying. Now you talking about snitching. You goddamn right I'm a law-abiding.
Up your ass, you'll floss your teeth with my shoelaces, nigga. Play with me, bro. Don't play with me, bro. Don't play with mine, bro. Don't play with mine. Just don't play with mine.
Charleston White built his whole image on shock value and running his mouth without limits. But this time, he messed with the wrong family. He went after T.Y.'s son, King Harris, and things got real fast. For years, Charleston been clowning King like it's a hobby, throwing slick shots, and even disrespecting Trayvon Martin's name during one of his wild rants. And that pushed people past their breaking point. Once you bring a man's child into your mess, you step into dangerous territory. Man, T.I. wasn't having it. This time, he didn't pull up as a rapper or a celebrity. He came through as a father defending his blood. The message he sent Charleston White, loud, sharp, and impossible to miss. It wasn't just talk, it was a warning. King Harris is young, still finding his way, building his own name in the spotlight, and Charleston thought he could use him for clicks. He went off calling King a nobody, brushing him off like he didn't matter. But the streets flipped that script quick. Word spread that this wasn't just some petty back and forth, this was personal now, and Charleston had finally crossed a line he couldn't walk back from. Let's keep it real. Charleston's obsession exposed something way deeper, straight up envy. Behind all that shouting, there's jealousy boiling. He can't stand seeing a 20-year-old with confidence, respect, and growing fame while he's pushing 50 and still fishing for attention online, his platform's shrinking, his name's losing power, and the same fans who once laughed with him now laugh at him. That's got to hurt. And now, the clown show ain't funny anymore. The same man who bragged about never fearing anybody is allegedly scared to even hop online these days, realizing he might have finally barked up the wrong tree. The danger isn't a joke this time. He's poked a man who protects his family at all costs. T. I didn't hold back one bit. He came for Charleston's neck. He called it exactly how it is. A grown man miserable with his own failures, taking shots at kids just to keep his name trending. Imagine that. Almost 50, waking up every day to talk down on someone young enough to be your son. That's not hustle, that's desperation. T.I. said it with fire. Play with my child if you want. He drew that line in concrete. He tore through Charleston's hypocrisy like tissue, because while King is stacking respect, making moves, and attracting genuine support, Charleston's biggest moment lately is another live stream meltdown. That's not legacy, that's embarrassment. But Tip wasn't done yet. He dragged Charleston's so-called career out for everyone to see. From snitching on his own people to getting caught spraying random animals to getting jumped on stage and running straight to the cops. It's comedy for the wrong reasons. That ain't tough. That's a man who lost all control of his own image. And now after all that noise, Charleston's sitting back, whining about King Harris again, when deep down, he knows the truth hurts. King represents everything he wishes he still had. Youth, attention, respect, and a family that actually loves him. And that burns more than any insult ever could. Every word Charleston spits now just sounds like bitterness on full display. And the world can see it plain as day. T's words hit like a punch to the gut because they came from a place of raw truth. After watching Charleston White clown around for years, Tip finally dropped the hammer. No filters, no patience, no warnings left. His message was simple but deadly serious. Play with my child. That's it. That one line shut down all the jokes and turned the laughter into tension real quick. Charleston's obsession with King isn't just jealousy. It's the cry of a man watching his own world crumble. His so-called comeback back in 2023 barely lasted a season before it went up in smoke. Now, instead of clout, all he's getting is chaos, mugshots, arrests, and viral breakdowns. His name only trends when he's in trouble, not when he's winning. Things went from bad to downright embarrassing in October 2024 when Charleston got arrested in Tarrant County, Texas, facing charges of animal cruelty and aggravated assault with a weapon. That animal cruelty story, it even turned his own fans against him. Reports said he pepper sprayed a cat, and that cruel move exposed how far he'd really fallen. The cops didn't treat it lightly either. They hauled him straight to the Lon Evans Correction Center. No bond, no sympathy, no excuses. But just when folks thought he'd chill out, he doubled down. By February 2025, he was back in custody again. Another aggravated assault charge. He bragged a few days later that the case was dropped, flashing fake smiles online. But come on, everyone could see the pattern. Arrest after arrest, drama after drama. It's a man spiraling fast and pretending it's all part of the show. Meanwhile, T.I. stood his ground like a real father. People close to him say he's laser focused on protecting his son. No bloggers, no fake activists, no washed-up personalities are gonna use King for clicks. He's ready to shield his family at all costs, especially from people trying to eat off their name like parasites. And the irony? It's wild. Charleston, a man with a record full of betrayals, courtroom humiliation, and street losses, really thinks he can talk down on King Harris? That's comedy at its finest. The same dude who's been running from his own failures for decades wants to throw shade at a 20-year-old just starting his journey? Please! That backfire is already hitting him harder than he ever expected. To understand why Charleston acts this way, you gotta look at where he came from. Born in Fort Worth, Texas in 1977, his early life was chaos from the jump. Violence, dysfunction, and no stability anywhere. By 14, he was already wrapped up in a robbery that went terribly wrong, landing him a conviction that kept him locked in juvenile detention for 7 long years. Inside those walls, life got even darker. He lost his right eye in an accident, and with no father figure or support system, his pain turned into pure anger. That mix of rage and abandonment molded him into the man we see today. Bitter, loud, and desperate for attention. Instead of healing, he turned his pain into performance. When Charleston hit social media, it wasn't talent that made him famous. It was disrespect. He built a platform by trashing legends like DMX and George Floyd, spitting out shock after shock just to get clicks. He never earned his spotlight. He forced it through outrage. And now, every time he attacks someone like King Harris, it hits different. Because it's not about jokes or opinions anymore. It's the projection of a man still haunted by his own past. A man who never healed, only learned how to hurt louder. Charleston White loves to brag about mentoring the youth, but his pattern couldn't be clearer. He only targets young, successful black men who've got what he never did. He goes after sons of solid families, kids raised with love, guidance, and support because deep down, that's the wound that never healed in him. Even Charleston himself once admitted he grew up feeling unloved and unwanted. Now he pours that same pain onto the next generation, tearing down the very kind of young men who remind him of everything he lost. Watching King Harris step confidently into the kind of young adulthood he never had eats Charleston alive. That's why he can't stop obsessing over King. It's not about beef, it's about envy and pain he can't hide anymore. This whole mess between him and T.I.'s family didn't come from nowhere. It came from a desperate man clinging to the last drops of attention, panicking as his name faded into irrelevance. And in that desperation, he chose the wrong people to mess with. By the end of 2022, Charleston's hype was already running dry. His antics were getting old, the shock value was fading, and folks were tired of the same clown show. His career had turned into a circus of chaos. Random rants, fake tough talk, and low blows just to stay trending. But when the numbers started dropping, he needed a new target. And that's when he made his biggest mistake ever, putting T.I.'s family in his sights. On October 8th, 2022, Charleston went live and unleashed one of his wildest, most unhinged rants yet. He didn't just go after King Harris, he also threw Boozy Badazz's son, Tootie Raw, into the mix. Both young men had recently been caught up in minor legal issues, and instead of showing them some guidance like he always claims to do, Charleston swooped in like a vulture, circling their rough moment for views. But this wasn't tough love or wisdom. This was cruelty dressed as commentary. He mocked King's looks, clowned his character, and predicted his downfall like it was entertainment. It wasn't mentorship, it was bullying at its worst, exposing exactly what drives him: the hunger to tear down any young black man who shines brighter than he ever could. And here's where the story flipped, because this time, Charleston didn't get away with it. King Harris wasn't one of those quiet targets who'd let things slide. Nah, he clapped back, fast and fierce. On October 9th, 2022, just one day later, King hopped on Instagram Live and let it all out. He didn't waste energy trading childish insults. He went straight for the truth, calling Charleston out as a snitch and a coward who preyed on kids for clout. He exposed everything Charleston tried to hide: The history of bragging about working with law enforcement, the shady stories of turning against his own people, and the fake, fearless persona that was nothing but talk. King peeled back the mask for everyone to see. And here's what made it hit harder. King Harris was only 18 at the time, yet he handled the situation with more class and control than a man nearly 50 years old. That alone shattered Charleston's act completely. The loudmouth who built his name off fear and chaos suddenly looked small, rattled, and powerless. His tough guy image cracked in real time because the truth had finally caught up, and it came from a kid who refused to be bullied. Instead of backing down, Charleston White showed just how twisted his mind really is. On October 10th, 2022, he went full villain, doubling down and taking his hate to a darker, more disturbing level. This wasn't just messy talk anymore. He started throwing around threats that had people completely stunned. He dragged Trayvon Martin's name into his rants, even mentioning George Zimmerman, turning real-life pain into props for attention. It was so out of pocket that folks online were calling for his career to end right then and there. At that point, it wasn't trolling. It was pure disrespect and dangerous behavior. A grown man making violent threats toward a rapper's teenage son while using one of the most painful tragedies in Black history for clicks? That's a line no real man should ever cross. Even people who used to laugh at Charleston's wild behavior said this time he went too far. He turned trauma into entertainment, and that exposed just how toxic his so-called shock content had become. But Charleston didn't stop with words. He made it worse. He actually bragged online about reaching out to Atlanta police and even contacting Fulton County DA Fonnie Willis, trying to get King Harris locked up. Just picture that. A man who's always preaching about mentoring the youth was actively trying to drag an 18-year-old into the system. That's not guidance. That's straight up sabotage. The hypocrisy was screaming loud. For years, Charleston claimed he was about helping young Black men, but this move showed the truth. He doesn't uplift anybody. He tears them down. And when T.I. got word of those threats, that was it. All patience went out the window. What started as internet drama instantly became something way more serious. On October 10th, 2022, the same day Charleston went off the rails, T.I. snapped back with full force. His tone changed completely. This wasn't about music, podcasts, or publicity anymore. This was about a father ready to go to war for his son. Tip made it clear that Charleston had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. You could hear it in his voice, that mix of fury and love that only a protective parent understands. Before all this, T.I. had been focusing on leveling up, hosting comedy shows, acting in movies, and growing beyond rap. But the second Charleston tried to put King in danger, the calm businessman disappeared, and the street soldier came right back out. Tip didn't mince words either. He made it clear he'd risk it all, his money, his name, even his freedom, if that's what it took to protect his son. That's the real difference between these two men. T.I. has everything to lose, while Charleston's already lost everything but his voice. The contrast couldn't be louder. One man fighting to protect his legacy and his family, the other spiraling, desperate for relevance because he doesn't have one. After those threats, there was a brief window where things could have cooled down. A phone call actually happened between T.I. and Charleston that same day, meant to squash the beef before it got uglier. But Charleston, true to his messy nature, fumbled it completely. Instead of de-escalating, he ran straight to the internet, bragging that the call didn't work. He flipped it into another episode of drama, milking it for attention like always. And just when you thought it couldn't get more ridiculous, Charleston pulled his wildest stunt yet. He challenged T.Y. to a celebrity boxing match. He even demanded Steve Harvey be the referee and joked that Tip should wear an eye patch so it'd be fair. Imagine that. A man who threatened a child trying to turn it into a clout-chasing pay-per-view circus. It was the ultimate display of desperation. While I was standing tall as a father defending his family, Charleston was out here chasing headlines, trying to turn pain into profit. That's when the world finally saw the truth. This wasn't a rivalry, it was a sad cry for attention from a man who lost touch with reality. And just when folks thought Charleston White couldn't sink any lower, he pulled out one of his oldest, dirtiest tricks, accusing T.Y. of being a federal informant over his connection to Crime Stoppers back in 2007 after that infamous gun case. The same tired storyline dragged out from the grave just to stir chaos. But instead of hurting T.I.'s image, it backfired hard, exposing Charleston's own hypocrisy for the world to see. Think about it. This is the same Charleston White who's proudly admitted to testifying against his own people and bragging about working with police when he was younger, yet he's trying to clown T.I. for doing a community safety campaign that helped save lives. The irony was wild. It wasn't even an attack. It was projection in its purest form. He was calling out Tip for the same thing he's been guilty of his whole life. Every time Charleston tried to spin the Crime Stopper's story, it only made him look more desperate. People could see straight through the act. He wasn't exposing anyone. He was reminding everyone how much of a contradiction he'd become. His credibility was already hanging by a thread, and this move just finished it off completely. By November 2022, T.I. had heard enough, but instead of arguing online or firing off heated videos, he handled it like a real artist. He took it straight to the booth. When he hopped on Juicy Fruit's track step, fans immediately caught the message. The bars were clean, confident, and cut deep, clearly aimed right at Charleston. Tip didn't need to scream or curse him out. His pen did all the work. He dismantled Charleston's image bar by bar, proving you can defend yourself without losing your cool. It was a smooth chess move, class-meeting precision. T.I. stayed in control, showing that while Charleston was busy performing for clicks, he was busy creating legacy. But Charleston, he completely missed the point. Again, in one of the most embarrassing twists yet, he actually praised the record and begged to be on the remix. That's how far his desperation had gone. Imagine being publicly dissed and still begging to join in, and because just being mentioned by someone like T.I. made him feel relevant again. That's not confidence, that's clout addiction. And that's the twisted loop Charleston lives in. A toxic cycle where any attention, even negative, feels like a win. Every diss, every backlash, every insult becomes fuel for his next meltdown. It's like he breathes through controversy. The moment people stop talking about him, he starts itching for another fight. That's why he keeps circling back to King Harris like a vulture waiting to feed. Whenever King faces any kind of challenge, a headline, a rumor, or even a personal struggle, Charleston swoops in instantly. He doesn't miss a beat. He'll mock, exaggerate, and twist it into content using King's name to get his numbers back up. And every time the internet drags him for it, he plays victim, acting like he's the one being bullied. It's manipulative, it's cowardly, and it's the same script every single time. Charleston's formula is always the same: provoke, insult, and when people clap back, hide behind excuses. He'll talk reckless, act like the victim, and then milk the drama for clicks. The man doesn't know how to exist without conflict. His entire image depends on hate. It's the only thing keeping him in the spotlight. And the worst part? His obsession with King Harris never went away. It just got sneakier. He waits for the perfect moment, when King's name starts trending or when he's going through something tough, and that's when Charleston strikes, throwing shade and pretending it's tough love. But everyone sees through it now. It's not mentorship, it's malice. He provokes, he mocks, and when the fire comes back his way, he runs for cover and cries foul. For a man who never stops preaching about uplifting the youth, his actions prove the exact opposite. Charleston White doesn't lift anyone up. He just feeds off their struggles to hide his own. Charleston White keeps claiming he's mentoring the youth, but his actions scream the total opposite. He's not guiding, he's hunting. He targets the sons of successful rappers because they symbolize everything he never had and can't stand to see others enjoy. When you strip away the noise, this beef goes way deeper than just King Harris. Charleston's obsession isn't personal, it's generational. His real issue is with strong black families that reflect the stability he never knew. He's openly admitted he grew up unloved, unwanted, and left behind. Those wounds never healed. They just hardened into bitterness. No father figure, no structure, no sense of direction, just pain turned into chaos. So when Charleston looks at T.I. raising his kids with love, discipline, and opportunity, it eats him alive. King Harris represents everything Charleston can't touch: a young man with family, purpose, and support. Instead of facing his own brokenness, Charleston projects that pain onto others, trying to drag them down into the same darkness he's stuck in. It's not mentoring, it's misery masked as motivation. And his behavior proves it every time. He's so lost in his own anger that he doesn't even see how far gone he's become. Threatening a teenager, then turning around to make it a celebrity boxing gimmick? That's not entertainment, that's delusion. To Charleston, nothing's sacred anymore. He'll turn real pain into content if it means another viral clip. Meanwhile, T.I. has been the complete opposite through it all. Every time Charleston tried to stir chaos, Tip stayed grounded, moving like a father, not a follower. He didn't play into the circus. He handled things with focus and strength, protecting not just his son, but his entire legacy. While Charleston was chasing clicks, T.I. was setting boundaries. His message was clear: my son's safety ain't for your entertainment. And that's exactly why people stood with him, because the streets respect a real father more than a man who hides behind controversy. The wildest part is how Charleston keeps flipping his script just to keep the spotlight on himself. One week he's mocking King's looks, the next he's yelling about snitches, then he's threatening lawsuits or bragging about police connections. It's the same tired routine dressed up in different words, but now people see it for what it is: desperation. Charleston isn't fearless, he's fading. He's not exposing truth, he's chasing attention, stretching every scandal like it's his last shot at staying relevant. Even his own followers are backing away now. When he crossed the line using Trayvon Martin's name, that was the turning point. Everyone realized there were no boundaries with him. No respect, no empathy, no line he wouldn't cross for clicks. And once you go that far, there's no coming back. His live streams used to be chaotic fun for his audience, but now people tune in waiting for the next meltdown, the next reckless quote, the next outburst that pushes him even deeper into disgrace. But through all the noise, King Harris has held his ground like a champ. He didn't let the internet clowning break him, and he didn't let Charleston define who he is. Ever since that powerful clapback in 2022, King's been proving something bigger, that he's got maturity beyond his years. He's handled every jab with composure and calm, never dropping to Charleston's level. And that's what burns Charleston the most, because nothing humiliates a bitter man faster than seeing a young King handle pressure with more class, focus, and dignity than he ever could. At the end of the day, the difference between King Harris and Charleston White couldn't be louder. King's got something real: family, love, purpose, and a future that keeps getting brighter with every step. Charleston, all he's holding on to now are controversies, mugshots, and regrets that won't stop haunting him. And here's the twisted irony: the same man screaming about being an activist for the youth is the one trying to destroy the very young men he claims to uplift. How can you call yourself a mentor when your every move screams the opposite? How can you say you're guiding kids while you're online attacking them, dragging their names, and even calling the cops to try and lock them up? That's not mentorship. That's hypocrisy on full display. Charleston White's history of violence, his animal cruelty charges, and his messy trail of arrests prove one thing: he never grew out of the chaos, he just learned how to sell it. Instead of healing, he monetized the madness. He turned dysfunction into entertainment, pain into profit, and hate into headlines. Now that the world's watching his downward spiral, it's clear: this isn't the story of a leader, it's the story of wasted potential and self-destruction. This whole feud pulled back the curtain and showed two completely different men living two completely different realities. On one side, you've got T.I., a father, protector, and man of principle, willing to risk it all to defend his blood. On the other, Charleston White, a bitter provocateur chasing the spotlight by tearing others down. And that's exactly why people rallied behind Tip. You don't need to be a fan of his music or his comedy to feel the truth. At the heart of this whole situation is a father's instinct to protect what's his. Because let's be real, a father's duty to defend his child will always outweigh the antics of a man who's already lost everything that matters. This isn't just gossip or internet drama. It's a wake-up call about boundaries and the lines that should never be crossed, no matter how desperate you are for clout. Charleston thought picking on King Harris would buy him another viral moment, but all it did was expose his own weakness. The mask slipped, the facade cracked, and the whole world saw through it. Behind the noise, the cursing, and the fake confidence was a man breaking apart in public. His platform isn't built on truth or leadership, it's built on chaos, cracks, and contradictions. And that's when T.I. delivered the warning that echoed everywhere: play with my child and there will be consequences. Those words hit with force. Not as a threat, but as a declaration every parent could feel deep in their soul. Fame, status, or street talk doesn't change that primal truth. When someone comes for your family, everything changes. Charleston learned that lesson the hard way, and those scars will last way longer than any viral rant or desperate live stream he ever posted. Because when the smoke finally clears, the truth stays written in bold letters. Charleston White is the story of a man who wasted every second chance he ever got. A man who could have turned pain into purpose, but instead chose chaos, clout, and confusion. T.I.'s story is the complete opposite. The story of a man who refused to let bitterness invade his home, who stood tall as a protector, and who showed that fatherhood means fighting for your family, no matter the cost. And then there's King Harris, the one at the center of it all, but somehow rising above it. His story is just getting started, and it's built on strength, patience, and a wisdom beyond his years. He's faced public attacks, stood his ground, and never lost his composure. And that's what really sets him apart. He didn't just survive the hate, he flipped it into growth. King's light isn't fading. It's shining brighter than ever. No matter how many trolls try to throw shade, the glow of resilience always wins. So what's your take on it all? Did Charleston White finally run into the one feud he couldn't twist into a victory? Or is this just the beginning of another wild, messy chapter waiting to explode? Let me know what you think down in the comments. I want to hear your opinion on this one. Make sure you smash that like button, share this video with somebody who's been following the drama, and don't forget to hit subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Because if you thought this was wild, the next one's about to turn everything upside down. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. See you on the next one.